Hey, right. Morning. Episode 9. Episode 9 of season 2.
What's been happening in your life, Stuart? We haven't had a catch up. Quick catch up.
What's been happening?
What's been happening? What are you doing show wise, competition wise?
Show wise, we're just trying to obviously climb up the grades a little bit now. We've got IMCA coming up and IFCS coming up in August, so preparing for that as much as possible. And just trying to climb up the grades a little bit, but I'm not going mad. I'm not entering every show every weekend. Just that when I go to a show,
I've got a really quiet July.
So when I go to a show, my objective is to try and climb up the grades a little bit, but I'm not putting any sort of major pressure on going to every show, trying to do every run, trying to just going into it. I want to keep his momentum up for obviously for IMCA and IFCS, so I don't want to put too much pressure on.
Yeah, that's going to be because you've got back to back basically, haven't you?
Yeah, so I go to IMCA for what is it, 6, 7, so 8 days, probably 9 days, is it, whatever. Come back for 4 or 5 days, then go back out again to Holland.
Wow.
Yeah, so
jet setter. We all together
chaotic.
now.
It's a bit chaotic, but
We'll have
it's
a
almost
season break.
Yeah, but the opportunity was there. I can't pass that opportunity.
No,
in hindsight, if it had been normal, the way the events had normally gone before COVID,
it wouldn't have been a problem, would it?
IMCA would have been in April, or sorry, IFCS would have been April. IMCA would have been August. We would have had plenty of time. It wouldn't have mattered.
Exactly that.
But it is what it is. We do.
You'll be fine.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Okay, so catching up a little bit, we're going to do a little bit on harsh handling around shows.
We are going to call this harsh handling, aren't we?
And I know there's going to be a different sort of opinion, I suppose, around what what.
Yeah, what would you define as harsh handling then?
So for me, harsh handling, I think, is any time that you choose to use anger against your dog when you're competing or whatever, if you're being angry at any point. But I know the difference between, there's a lot of people go, oh, angry. There's a big difference between angry and being annoyed.
Frustrated.
I
know when we spoke with Becky, I was talking about Kit, that I was frustration. I wouldn't have said I harsh handled, but I also wouldn't have said it was very, very out of character for me. So maybe it was, I tend to, I guess, see harsh handling as something physical.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I agree.
I don't think there's no situation that on an agility run that should involve a physical contact that's not positive.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, especially when you're working together. That's
Yeah. I mean, the only time you're going to handle like on a round is if your dog's injured or you pick them up or you do something. It's all done with sympathy, isn't it? It's not done.
But do you not see that as like, so I've seen before, when a dog's not quite going the right way, things have gone not quite according to plan, and then the handler, not necessarily physically, but you can emotionally, you can see that handler is being hard on the dog and maybe taking them out of the ring for whatever reason, that sort of.
See, and that's quite difficult to kind of discuss, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because
yeah,
there are times as experienced handlers and trainers that you wouldn't. So if I've asked my dog to do a jump skill that it's proofed at a grade 7 level, I would expect my dog to carry it out. I don't tend to. So say like my wing rack cue. If Nairobi, when she comes out, didn't do it, I may not approve that in every situation. But like Kip, I would expect him to do that, and I would repeat the exercise. Is that being harsh, or is that just saying, mate, you need to be obedient? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but it's like, so it's like, I know. With my dogs, for instance, so we're on a course, we're in an agility show, whatever that is, things aren't quite going according to plan. Maybe we've lost some contact somewhere, or whatever's gone on, or we've made an error, and then I'm going to say chooses, but I know that's the wrong word, but my dog will choose to do something else. And the reason he chooses to do something else is because he doesn't understand what's going on. Things are going wrong, blah, blah, blah. It is what it is. It looks like they go out of control. They go, dogs start whatever. But I'm quite happy at that point to go, right, lie down, stop.
Yeah. Enough. Yeah.
Come
Yeah,
here, and then we'll leave, or we'll do whatever we're going to do next. Whereas some people would deem that to be miserable, harsh handling.
You see, I think that I class that as my reset button. So I would rather, so I know as an inexperienced handler with Herbie, there were times when I caused him to get frustrated with me because my handling wasn't correct, and he would bite at the grass, and I was like, oh, for God's sake, and so I do have a reset button where, because dogs do argue with us, because they'll feel our frustration. They know we've gone wrong, and they'll be like, what did you do that for? And you get this argument thing going on, and they get to quite like it. They get to quite like the interaction, and I think it is absolutely 100% okay to say to your dog, lay down, stop. It's like a reset, or put them into a middle or into a heel or whatever you've got. I think there are times, and I think there are times when it would stop the argument escalating, and some dogs nip at that time, don't they? Or so I think controlling frustration to me is not harsh handling at all. I think if you have a trained behavior and you can hand on heart say that is 100% like a stop contact, an experienced stop contact dog, you would put back on and leave the ring. Even my baby, when she comes out, if she comes off of her contact, I just say, can I put it back on? Good girl, well done, and put it back on. 3 years down the line, actually that's expected behavior, Nairobi. You need to do that. But I think what I don't like seeing, and I think that there's a lot of frustration around at the moment, or there certainly appears to be, is when, and I've seen it on several occasions in grade 6 or 7 rings, because I'm not around the baby rings.
No.
Where people have physically removed their dog, and I don't mean a jump in the arms or a little scoop underneath, but physically got hold of the scruff of the neck. On several occasions, feet have come off the floor. And the dog's been dragged out and put in a crate, or not even rewarded. That to me is not acceptable. No,
I agree. That's crossing the line for me, definitely. So, and that's why I said at the beginning, anything where you sort of, if you're physically in anger, if you're physically taking your dog anywhere like that, then that would be harsh handling for
There's no excuse for it, is there? No excuse for it at all. And the other thing is that you have to think about, so I've used like grade 6 and 7 rings on purpose there, because we've I know we've discussed it before, and you see it all the time, like elite handlers and that. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But I think as a inexperienced handler, when I was going up the grades with Herbie for the very first time, I would love watching the grades 6 to 7 rings. And I think it's those rings that should be setting an example for our up and coming people, and I don't mean like us with our grade 3 dogs or grade 4 dogs, but new people to the sport would be like, and then you could see why they'd get on social media and like, Jesus, like, why would you do that? And what has the dog done? The dog doesn't choose to get up in the morning and be treated like that.
No, I agree. And we've said this before in other episodes, that we make a choice every day on our dog's behalf. Every day. So whether that going out for a walk or whatever, but going into an agility ring, we make that choice for our dog. My dog doesn't make a choice to go in the ring. I've made that choice. We've entered the show, we've got there, we've put him in there. So whatever happens inside that ring rope for me is my responsibility.
So
I'm not saying that I'm, I don't want to say that I'm sort of an angel in any way, shape or form, because sometimes we get frustrated and we get things happen. But there's a
okay, so looking at it from another way, devil's advocate, right? Can you think, so I've seen it, I think every weekend this season, I can actually say that I've seen a dog in a grade 6 to 7 ring, different sizes, scruffed by the neck and physically dragged out of the ring. Okay. So looking at it from a devil's advocate, we all train differently. We all do different things. Can you think of any reason that may be acceptable or that would be explainable?
The only way that I would explain that, if I was to grab my dog by the scruff of the neck to drag for whatever reason, would be if he was about to bite or attack somebody else or something else.
Or kill himself on something he was about to.
Exactly. Yeah, something where you had no choice but to physically get him out of that situation. For whatever reason, he was about to bolt or chase or whatever that is. The only way you've got is, right, stop that for a second. I'm going to take you away from the danger or stop you from hurting somebody or yourself, that sort of thing. That's, for me, that would be the only opportunity for me to sort of...
I mean, I try and train really good drop downs and really good leads and everything else, but if my dog's not going to live,
to a certain extent, if another dog entered the ring towards my dog and I could see that was going to, I'd be like, my dog would be up, out of the way, whatever.
Me too. Me too.
However I'm going to grab him, he's going to be grabbed for now.
Exactly that. But in the normal rounds of an agility round, say like we were talking about our reset, so usually mine is a down as well, or a sit, that is enough. I can't think of any reason why anyone in modern day training needs to scruff their dog. And again, some people hold a scruff and it's how you use your hands, isn't it, that deems it harsh. So I would say that there's some people that use lead correction. I've seen lead correction done very sympathetically and very effectively. Okay, that's not saying that I endeavour to use it as a method. However, coming from the horse world, I use my hands like sponges, and lots of other people do that. And I've seen people use lead correction effectively. However, I've also seen on the other side, lead correction used very, very harshly. And it's not needed. And you know what? It's really not nice to see. No, I agree. And it's the same, and that's the same as, like you say, taking a dog out of there. I know for my dogs, for instance, I have like a scruff start sometimes when I'm resetting my dog, hold him by the scruff, ready, go, and we're off again. So that's I tend to do it. But from a training point of view, we've done, we've done that from a puppy point of view, where grabbing the collar, grabbing the scruff, whatever you want to call it, with treats, with toys, whatever, all that. So they're happy with it, and they know that it means something. It's not me sort of. It's not harsh handling.
It's like, we're going to go again.
But,
come back here, we're going to go again.
The situations that I can think of, that it was just frustration, basically. The dogs were just picked up by the scruff and the feet were dangling. Now, the problem I have with this, right, is that I hate confrontation. I would never. I'm quite happy to sit here and talk about it and discuss it, and if anyone has done it and is listening to this and wants to say to me or us, or even on a live broadcast, well, this is the reason that I do that, then I would openly want to talk about it. However, what I wouldn't do is, because I don't like confrontation, I wouldn't, if that person came out the ring, firstly, I don't think it's any of my business, but then, that dog, I do feel for the dog, but I wouldn't feel comfortable approaching that person. And the thing is on the schedules, it says no, harsh handling isn't tolerated.
So is that not almost like a judge's responsibility at that point? If that's happening in the ring, should the judge not go over and go, well, you can't do that?
And I've seen that. I have seen
I've seen it recently, a couple of shows actually.
And I think that's really good. And some judges are really good at saying it, but that person's not, if it's done through frustration, that person's not, that you've seen the back of that person, haven't you? And maybe it should have been my responsibility to go and put it in the incident book, or whatever. But what happens to these incident books? So I'm kind of thinking, as we're chatting here, as so often I do, that okay, so the incident book stays with the club, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't get reported anywhere, unless obviously it's a reportable incident, which are very rare, aren't they? So
yeah.
So it just sits with the club. So it could be prudent that actually, you know, especially if it was a kennel club show.
I think the incident book does go back to the kennel club. I think you have to send your incident book to the kennel club.
Do you?
After the show, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what happens to it?
And then they sign it and then they send it back to you.
So
somebody must look at it.
So then maybe it was my responsibility, because then actually if the same names kept coming up for harsh handling, then it would be the responsibility of the kennel club or the governing body. And I do know some governing bodies that have followed it through. You know, some many years ago, you know, that dogs or competitors aren't allowed to. But you know, you kind of like, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of about to beat myself up. Like, you know, should I have said something? But maybe. We do seem to be seeing a lot more.
Yeah. But then I think it's hard to say anything, because even though you don't know what that person's necessarily like at the time.
Or going through. But still,
which is still not an excuse. Not an excuse, but what I'm thinking
of, you just move yourself from the situation, don't you? You just take responsibility for the fact that you've got the frigging hump, or that you're frustrated and I'm going on, you know, or, you know, but even so, I wouldn't have got hold of Kippy. No way. It's just not built in me. And okay, let's move on from scruffing, because I'll get quite emotional with that. What else? So what do you see in the cues at the moment? Would you deem anything else as?
I do see a lot of people with their dogs. You know, when they got their head collars on and bits and pieces, and they've got their dogs tucked right in close to them, like pulling their heads up on those head collars, got everything all sort of squashed in a little bit. And that may be because the dog's a little bit reactive and they're trying to keep them away from people in the queue and all the bits and pieces that go with it. But just sort of relaxing a little bit in the queue.
Yeah,
you know, and if you have got a reactive dog or a problem, then just step to one side and just take them out of that situation until they 100% have to be there.
See, I mean, having a reactive dog, I can be quite sympathetic to that. But you know, we got her all the way to Crufts. There were so many people that said we should never have qualified that dog to Crufts. But the only reason that I managed to get her to that level was I taught her so many coping mechanisms. So her middle was her safe place. So if I was queuing, I had her in a middle, and we would be feeding her in the latter days with a muzzle on as well, because she'd bitten one of my dogs at home. She'd never ever bitten a dog out, but I lost trust. So you know what, you've now got to have a muzzle on outside, and to this day I still walk her in a muzzle. But she likes the muzzle. It gives her a little bit of safety. I've trained her through that. We also trained her an immediate drop down, and I had to do that so I worked on it right through to high arousal levels, so she could drop down in in fact in the end her drop down was better than her recall. And I put the work in. So I've gone off piste again, but from a queuing point of view, the cues do seem really stressy and jabby and everything else, and again, I've seen people like physically, I've actually saw somebody get hold of somebody else's dog push out the way.
Pull them out of the way, I mean, it's getting away. So we do. I'm fortunate, obviously, with Becky, we can sort of share the queuing almost. So we don't have to sort of take our dogs down and queue for too long, etc. So we've got it relatively straightforward. But I'm also quite happy with my dog that they can do a sit or a lie down out of the queue if I need them to. You know, or I'm quite happy to say to the person behind or in front of me, I will be there, but I'm just going to go and stand over there for a second. And I take myself out.
What we should do is then,
and then it doesn't help either that the queues are like 30 dogs long either.
No,
We've got the queue levels down to sort of 5 or 10 dogs at a time as
10
well.
dogs, 10's enough in a queue, isn't it?
But when you go to a show and there's like, and there's 20 odd dogs in a queue and it's a bit warm and they're all barking and getting all frustrated and bits and pieces, I think that can cause.
There's a lot of frustration. I've seen a lot of frustration in the last 3 or 4 shows. The big shows. I've been to a lot of big shows and they do seem really stressing. Really stressy. But and maybe the dogs haven't got the coping mechanisms because they've not been in that situation for a long time.
For a couple of years, 18 months, 2 years, where they've not been around the shows for as long as they would have normally. But yeah, there is a little bit of that in the queue, where the dogs are being held right up as they possibly can, with these head collars on and stuff like that. But that, that could be just that, the dog might be reactive. They're just holding them out of the way for whatever reason. But then for me, if your dog's that reactive, then maybe they shouldn't be in that queue.
Yeah, maybe they shouldn't be in that environment.
That's the other part. But that we've discussed that a little bit before, I think, with reactivity and bits and pieces. But that's a whole different.
Yeah, I think it's people making sure that they deal with their frustrations. Because it in no way, shape, or form is it acceptable in the middle of the run or even at the end, when people are pissed off and they come out and they just get hold of their dog and they shove a lead on it, like, come on, it's like, for God's sake, that poor dog did not ask to get up in the morning and have that done to it, did it? So maybe there's no way I could deal with the confrontation. I just couldn't.
But maybe, like say, maybe it's a case of going up to the show manager or whatever and just say, look, I've just seen this.
Should it be done at the time or should it be go in the incident? But because if you've got, so we can, doing it once can be a mistake, right? None of us are perfect. Doing something once is a mistake. Doing twice is a repeated mistake. Doing it third is a choice. That's kind of how I look at it. Do you know what I mean? It is like, okay, that was a mistake. That handler, I should have cornered.
There is a saying somewhere that a mistake made more than once is a choice.
Exactly that. So if the same people are repeating, then surely that if people like me that think actually that was really rank out of order, went and put that in the incident book and the same name came up from different people. So I don't, I'm not the sort of person that's going to go, is that person doing it? Do you know what I mean? I guess there is that person that is going to do that. But surely if the same name came out, then that person would need to be actioned. I don't even know what the process is.
I think you have to put some money down. I can't remember exactly what if you want to make a formal complaint, you have to put some money down, I think. Right. And then the money comes back to you if it's withheld or whatever that,
But then what happens is that person banned from competitions?
It goes through like an inquiry and
you get like football, you get like a month off.
Basically you get, it depends on what they find in their investigations and whatever. I don't think I maybe I have my head in the sand a little bit, but I don't think I've actually known anybody be banned from a for handling.
I've known dogs banned from an aggression point of view.
Dogs point, we're not people.
No.
I don't think I've seen people been asked to leave a showground sometimes, but never banned or.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I think there is a little bit more. But going on to a little bit like we just spoke on a previous episode, obviously with Becky, the frustration I think is down to us, and there's too much pressure, I think, on us or handlers to perform almost if we take into consideration the social media aspect of it. So we're watching, or people can sit on their phones, on their laptops, whatever, and they can watch hours and hours and hours of people competing, training, all that sort of stuff, looking brilliant. Everything's all shiny. The videos are edited nicely, and
Not real life though, is
there's
it?
music on the background, and there's, you know, I do it. That's what I do with my videos. Edit it, you know, make it all.
Yeah,
look
I do. Edit my voice out.
Makes it nice and pretty, and all the bits and pieces, makes it look really cool, and all the bits and pieces that go with it. So do we have that sort of almost expectations that people are trying to live up to, and they're getting more and more frustrated because they're not hitting what they think.
Yeah,
what they think is the ideal.
Yes, yeah, but nobody, you know, nobody ever posts about failure. I tend to, or
I
tend
do
to,
a little bit more now. I'm better at it now.
I'm very open about the fact that, you know, we're none of us are perfect.
I put warts and all videos on quite a lot now.
You do what?
I put a warts and all video on.
Oh,
I don't mind. So the last videos I put on was from IFCS qualifiers and Fab last weekend, and I'd put 2 wins and one was try harder, and the other one was an elimination. And you know, I'm happy.
Elimination at Thames.
Happens, doesn't it?
I was consistent.
It happens. It happens.
In fact, the last 2 shows I've been eliminated every run because I've pulled out a championship.
It happens, doesn't it? You know, we have good weekends, bad weeks, bad
months,
exactly.
Exactly. But it still gives you no excuse to get hold of your dog and ram it out of the ring just because you're frustrated.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a couple of over a few shows. I've seen, you know, when even to the point, I suppose, which again, I'm guilty of. From years ago when I first started agility, I was quite guilty of it. But where the dog is, you know, you got to jump, let's say jump dog walk or whatever, start, and the dog goes over the dog walk, misses the contact, and they go, right, get out. When you've done 2 obstacles, the dog's missed 1 contact and they're out already. And the handler goes stomping off, grabs the lead, and, you know, that sort of stuff. I was sort of guilty of that a little bit when we first started. I had a crazy dog that I didn't know how to handle and wasn't, you know, I was inexperienced.
Okay, so I'm going to again play devil's advocate with that, because I think there is a time that needs to happen.
Yeah,
so
I agree. Because we don't know from an outside point of view what they've been trained or how they've been told.
and I think if it's consistent, particularly with weaves, if the dog is consistently weaving everywhere else but not in a show environment, it's coming out the tent and it becomes habitual, and it becomes, you know, just the dogs just do it. I had it with Cookie and Candice where he was just, I'm like, right, 3 times and you're out, you know, because he is choosing not to do it. And you know, we looked at our training and made sure that
3 times in your eye is okay, isn't it? 2 times in your eye, whatever. But just on that first instance, you've got to have some.
And I think that's later on as well. I think, you know, beginner dogs, sometimes they just need to do it. You know, you just need to get confident with it and everything else. So that I don't necessarily class that as harsh handling.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, like I say, you can stand on the outside. You can stand on the outside, and you know, and we don't know what that dog's done.
No, I think physically,
for the last 10 shows, and that might be the last straw. You know, it might be one of those. You know, we've tried everything else. That's all we've got.
Honest to God,
Stuart, when you're losing your temper.
Worst, yeah, but that was my worst. I'd say it's my worst moment with Kippy. Years and years and years ago, I never had any contact with Herbie at all. You know, I thought I knew better than my trainer and blah 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 blah. And I remember him coming down the dog walk contact, and I was so close. I was almost like, stay there, like, physically, like, get on that contact. You know, so. Yeah, bad moments, as you say, we're not but still no reason to get hold of the dog.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
off the floor and drag it out the ring.
I think we can sort of go with the harsh handling. For me, is any sort of physical contact with your dog in an angry manner.
Yeah, but it's not required.
It's unacceptable for us on a hard handling. You know, I think.
And I think if I see it again and I'm upset by it, I will put it in the instant.
Something.
I think that's
but then, you know, like I said before, maybe the judge should be stepping. I know the judges get bashed a lot, so it's hard for them to get involved because they don't can't get involved. But
yeah, again, I agree that we don't.
But they sign a contract to say that they were going to be in charge of that ring for the day. So
Yeah, and so like look at it from a football, like park football, so amateur football, they're not getting paid for it, or something, they get their expenses paid, like same as judges. Is their responsibility? So someone punches someone,
They're going to send them off.
then they're going to send them off, you know. So I think they have to. Yeah. Sorry, judges.
Yeah, just a little bit of responsibility. If they see something in the ring that they're not happy with, get involved, I think.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Right. I think
excellent.
That's cool. Really, really cool. So
yeah, lovely.
All right.
Good.
So we'll end on that one. I think that's good. So we've
you again.
established what we need. Yeah, and we'll speak again soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.